Hey there. Welcome to Product Marketing Maestros, Tales from the Front Lines. I'm your host, Nitin Karthik. As Director of Product Marketing and a top product marketing voice, I've always found that real world case studies are the true litmus test for the effectiveness of any product marketing strategy. And that is why on this show, we dive into the minds of industry titans as well as rising stars, unpacking their expertise in action packed episodes that showcase the power of product marketing through real world case studies. And today, my friends, we are joined by product marketing maestro Iryna Wagner, who is product marketing manager at WhatsApp. After 12 years in consumer goods, advertising, marketing, brand management, and innovation, Iryna pivoted to big tech, where she has been working as a product marketing manager for the past 6 years. At WhatsApp, she has developed and launched brand new products and features to drive interactions between businesses and consumers. At Microsoft, Iryna has driven Microsoft 365 growth worldwide and pivoted new initiatives and piloted them to scale Microsoft Teams adoption and growth. And a fun fact, Iryna makes a perfect whiskey sour. You got to try that. She used to work at Chivas Regal and was lucky to experience and launch some of the great whiskeys and amazing cocktails. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Iryna Wagner. Iryna, it's an absolute honor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Needham. I'm so excited to be on the show. I'm very excited to be part of this series and share my experience with big tech with you guys. Specifically today, I will talk about the pivot and kind of like how the experience was for me, how was my journey, what were the challenges, and eventually how I did make it work. So I hope it will be helpful. Yeah, I'm happy to dive in.
Oh, I know this is going to be great, Iryna. A lot of people, especially in this market, I think it's been a little bit tough on various personnel. There have been a lot of downsizing. So maybe those of you in the audience, you may be looking to make a pivot, right? So I think this will be very timely. So wonderful. Iryna, with that, pick a situation. You're talking about the pivot. Tell us about the antecedents. We'll use the ABC framework, right? So we'll use the antecedents, the behaviors, and the conclusion. So tell us about the antecedents, the prior challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, the challenge is how do you pivot, right? That's essentially the case study here in hand. In my case, I can give you a little bit more background, right? I think Nitin mentioned earlier, I've spent actually most of my career, more than 12 years, in a very traditional consumer goods marketing. So think advertising, think brand innovation, think marketing campaigns. And then I pivoted into big tech after I completed my MBA. And so that was the context essentially. It's tricky, right? If you think about it, it's pretty overwhelming. But there are two things, good and bad, that I wanted to share with you to set up the whole kind of conversation. So the bad thing is no one cares about your previous experience. And that was definitely the case for me. And maybe it's not necessarily always like this, but no one cares. But the good thing, which is the same point-ish, but looked at it differently, and that was my experience for sure, is no one also cares what was your specific industry that you worked before. There is no specific prerequisite, and I will talk a little bit more about it. But what's important here is as long as there is a fit between you and the company that you can demonstrate and you can show how you can add value based on your previous experience with the company, that's absolutely fine. So that's pretty much the context. And then I can give you a few thoughts how I worked with that context moving forward.
Absolutely. Iryna, I really love that. No one cares. It's bad news and it's good news, right? The bad news is no one cares. Good news is no one cares. I love it. So I think that's great. A lot of these challenges, I think, may be felt by members of our audience as well. So next, Iryna, let's talk about the behaviors, the actions. Tell us now, given that context, what actions did you engage in?
Yeah, so there are a few things that that I consider. The first thing is there is a little bit of tendency to prioritize, especially for the business roles, right? So we're talking about marketing, we're talking about partnerships teams in these big tech companies. There is a tendency to prioritize candidates from consulting, potentially corporate strategy, but not for the industry for sake of it, but for the way that industry and think consulting molds a person, right? It's a very process-driven, very framework-driven behavior and mindset. And that's what big tech loves. Like they literally want to see it within you. And when you actually have a framework in mind that you can talk them through, that's how you can show it. And so what I actually did, I actually interviewed for consulting before big tech. I knew I would not go into consulting, but I went through the whole process. I actually ended up interviewing with McKinsey, but I knew every single framework. I know how to position the mini cases and how to answer them in the way that, the highest standard, kind of like, across all industries. So, I mean, it's a very heavy way to prepare. You don't need to go through the interview in consulting, but learning how those interviews are kind of like are structured and understanding all the key frameworks, which I'm sure PMM Alliance has like plenty of them covered through the webinars, is critical. And so what I did actually, I went through my resume and I tried to identify the experiences, independent of what it is, that are transferable to big tech, that can be valuable for big tech. And then I built a tiny mini case for each of those experiences. So when a person during the interview would ask me about any different angle, I would know right away which experience to talk about, and I will talk about it within the framework that's either recognizable by the industry, how do you build a brand position, etc., or is very clear and easy to follow. So I think that's very, very important for big tech. And then also in terms of the another thing that I did, you really need to understand how the company, and in big tech, you have all flavors, companies of all flavors, how that specific company thinks about their product. What is their overall goal? Is it a revenue? Is it adoption? How do they think about their products? What's most important? And then just make sure that whatever you speak in an interview and you have that angle. The best thing to do it is to have insiders in the company's network, just get their perspective on your experiences, get their understanding, that they can share about how the company would think about them, and make sure that you include it in your pitch, in your interview narrative, whatever you call it. And then the last thing that I would say, and it definitely was the case for me, is you have to be humble. Like I got entry level, pretty much PMM in Microsoft after 12 years in consumer goods, and I was treated exactly the same as person was a 2-year consulting overall in their career, and it's absolutely fine. You will have absolutely amazing opportunity to prove yourself, and I think the beauty of these companies, it's very straightforward. If you deliver the value, show the impact, you will be promoted pretty fast, and that's what I pretty much observed with Microsoft and WhatsApp in my case. But you have to be humble and you say that's okay, and then you grow really fast. I promise you that. So those pretty much key elements that I wanted for you guys to think through when you're getting ready for interviews with big tech.
Absolutely fabulous. Wow. I think those behaviors that you highlighted, prepare, even if you're preparing at a much more intense level that you may not need for this particular interview, that'll at least make you feel that this interview is a breeze. It's a walk in the park. So I love that. I also love your advice about, being humble. If let's say you want to make a pivot, you may not be able to start right at a super senior level, but start and then, make your way up and it will come. I love that. So wonderful. Iryna, we've talked about the behaviors as well. Now bring it home. Tell us about the conclusion. How did this play out in your situation?
I mean, the conclusion is more about, hey, I got a job twice. Yes, I've enjoyed my ride with both companies, and I think what I had a chance and I've been lucky enough to experience is a very different roles with Microsoft and with WhatsApp. That again shows that you actually do not need to be pigeonholed in any specific kind of like perception based on your experiences. At Microsoft, I actually was on the outbound side of PMM, which means that I was not launching the products, but I was scaling them and driving go-to-market adoption. So I worked heavily on the sales and partnership side of business. I worked with large businesses, right? So almost kind of like the external face of the company, if you wish, to really make sure that, we help them adopt this product and realize value of it. And then on WhatsApp side, I actually have been working on the end-to-end product journeys. So everything where PMM brings value to understand what product is needed, which features are needed, positioning the concept, working with product engineering team, and then driving that product through public launch all the way to scale through various marketing initiatives. So very, very different types of stakeholders, right, in both cases. But I think the important thing is, as long as you're kind of like positioned in a way that you can drive value, the company will recognize it and will give you a chance and opportunity to do that. So, if you need scope and you want to prove yourself, I think this is an industry that actually can give you that. And I've been lucky in both companies to be able to show impact and to work on something really, really meaty, even though it doesn't have to start that way. And of course, I think in terms of the big tech, the type of stakeholders will be very, very different to your existing industry. But honestly, I think managing stakeholders, the logic and all your experience that you've done, either managing teams or cross-functional teams would be very similar. So would it be sales or partnerships teams or working with clients, or product in engineer, you will have to find your ways. And honestly, sometimes I think that working with engineers and product managers is easier than pleasing brand ambassadors and whiskey producers. So you never know what's easier. So yeah, it's been a fun journey for me. I never look back. I'm really happy with big tech, and yeah, anyone can do it. I'm sure that.
Wow, what great advice. What great advice. I absolutely love it. So, like you mentioned, a couple of things just to highlight. Have your preparation be superb, even though the actual interview may not be as intense. Be willing to take even a junior position if you're going to especially make a pivot, and know that you will advance, that will come. Work hard, collaborate with everyone. Fantastic advice. So, Iryna, I absolutely enjoyed this. I think our audience can take a lot of golden nuggets away from this discussion. If people, Iryna, want to learn more about you, where can they reach you? Where can they find out what's next?
Yeah, of course. I'm on LinkedIn, guys. I'm pretty active there, so feel free to just ping me and say hi and ask me anything. I'm very happy to engage in conversations. And thank you so much for your time. I hope it was helpful.
Oh my God. I think this was super helpful and super timely as well, right? Especially now, given the state of affairs with the hiring market, I think a lot of people will really benefit from this. So, Iryna, thank you. Absolutely fabulous. And guys out there, definitely hit up Iryna on LinkedIn. And if you are so fortunate, maybe she'll make you a whiskey sour. Armed with that knowledge, my friends, let's make the magic happen.